Today, you'll discover the mysteries behind one of humanity's greatest achievements, which some claim never even happened. Did man really reach the moon, or was it all staged? Get ready to explore one of the most controversial and intriguing conspiracy theories of all time. Welcome to Did You Know Canada? On July 20th, 1969, millions of people around the world were glued to their TVs. The Apollo 11 mission, led by Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, had landed on the moon. Neil Armstrong stepped down the ladder and uttered the iconic phrase, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." The moment was hailed as the peak of technological capability and human spirit, but not everyone was convinced. But what many don't know is that the political tension of the Cold War was at its peak. The Soviet Union had been the first to launch a satellite into orbit and the first to send a living being into space, the famous Laika. With that, the United States needed to show its superiority. The moon landing was not just a scientific achievement, but a symbolic victory. And this is where the conspiracy theory starts to form. If NASA was willing to spend billions of dollars to win the space race, wouldn't they be willing to stage the great feat? At the time, the technology was limited. Only a live global broadcast was available, and the images were transmitted from an antenna in Australia. This factor became one of the first suspicions for conspiracy theorists, who claimed that with such limited control over the transmissions, it would be easy to manipulate the images. This conspiracy theory gained traction in the 1970s, especially with the book We Never Went to the Moon by Bill Kaysing, a former employee of a company contracted by NASA. Kaysing pointed out supposedly questionable details. Why are there no stars in the lunar sky? He argued that NASA couldn't recreate stars in a studio. The flag waving in a windless environment, how is that possible? Inconsistent shadows. Photographs show shadows at different angles, suggesting multiple light sources, just like in a film set. But are these details really that suspicious? Let's analyze them one by one. The absence of stars in the lunar sky, for example. The Apollo 11 cameras were adjusted to capture the bright surface of the moon, which reflects a lot of sunlight. This alone would make the stars invisible to the cameras, since they are much weaker compared to the intense light from the lunar surface. As for the flag, what many don't know is that it was designed with a horizontal rod to keep it stretched and look like it was waving. Even without wind, the movement we see in the footage can be explained by how the astronauts planted it into the ground. And the shadows, they are actually caused by the sunlight reflecting off the lunar soil, which acts like a natural mirror, creating a lighting effect different from what we're used to seeing on Earth. If you're a fan of cinema, this part of the story will fascinate you. According to theorists, NASA allegedly recruited none other than Stanley Kubrick, famous for the film 2001, A Space Odyssey, to direct the footage of the fake moon mission. They claim that Kubrick used the revolutionary technologies he developed for the film's visual effects. Kubrick, known for his perfectionism in his films, had developed advanced filming techniques and special effects for the time, especially in the use of miniatures and highly detailed sets. Theorists claim he was the perfect choice to create a fake moon, using all his technical knowledge of how to create realistic space environments. Some theorists believe he left subliminal clues in the movie, suggesting his involvement in staging the moon landing. The character Danny, for instance, wears a t-shirt with an Apollo 11 rocket printed on it. Could this be a coincidence, or was Kubrick hiding a message? The question that remains, why fake a trip to the moon? For the theorists, the answer is simple: politics. We're talking about the height of the Cold War. The space race was an ideological battle between the United States and the Soviet Union. A successful landing would have been a devastating blow to the Soviets. The space race wasn't just a scientific competition, but a race for prestige and ideological supremacy. If the United States succeeded in landing on the moon first, it would be a clear statement of their global leadership and victory over communism. The pressure to beat the Soviets was immense, and a success like this would have significant political implications. Furthermore, the Apollo program cost billions of dollars. Theorists argue that, due to the enormous amount of money involved, it might have been cheaper to stage the landing than actually send it. Let's not forget that As the Apollo program progressed, the United States was facing internal protests due to the Vietnam War, civil rights movements, and an unstable economy. Creating a distraction like a great achievement like the moon landing could have been a way to divert attention from these issues. But what do scientists have to say about all this? Let's debunk the main points. First, the absence of stars in the photos. The cameras used in Apollo 11 were adjusted to capture the more illuminated areas of the moon, like the surface. The moon's brightness would overshadow the stars, which are much weaker. As for the flag, many don't know that it was designed to appear as though it was waving. It wasn't just planted into the ground, but manipulated by the astronauts as they placed it. Inconsistent shadows can be explained by the light reflecting off the lunar soil, which works like a natural mirror. Another important point is the presence of lunar rocks brought back by the Apollo missions. These rocks have characteristics that cannot be replicated on Earth, which strengthens the authenticity of the missions. If you still doubt, here's more proof that the moon landing was real. One of the biggest experiments conducted with the Apollo landing was the installation of lunar reflectors. They're still used today to measure the distance between the Earth and the moon accurately using lasers. Moreover, the Soviet Union, which was closely monitoring the United States, never publicly questioned the authenticity of the landing. Recently, space probes from other countries like China and Japan have photographed the landing sites and shown the tracks left by the astronauts. Even the shadows of the spacecraft are still visible in the photos, providing further evidence that the mission was real. So, what do you think? Was man's trip to the moon really a milestone for humanity? Or do conspiracy theorists have some reason to doubt? One thing's for sure, these theories make us question and investigate further. Another option is already appearing on the screen for you to continue exploring mysteries and curiosities. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss any content. See you in the next video.